A very good morning, friends. My name is Dhanunjay Reddy, and today we are going to discuss, or we are going to continue the previous lecture that is called role of identity politics in role of identity in Indian politics. In my last class, I have said what is identity politics, and I have given some basics of caste, such as what do caste mean, what is the difference between caste and class. Next, I said M.N. Srinivasan, Sanskritization and dominant caste, and then I have said how caste system was relevant right from ancient Indian history, then in the medieval times, and in the colonial rule and post-colonial rule also. So that is what we discussed. Today we are going to continue with the discussion that we are having. That is the role of caste in Indian politics. On the first slide, you can observe or you can find some photos, and these photos are related to. First photo is of Rajni Kothari. He has written a book called Caste in Indian Politics. So this is one important book that we are going to discuss, or this is one author that we are going to discuss. He has supported caste in Indian politics in a good way. So you can remember caste in Indian politics, the scholar for this is Rajni Kothari. And there is one more scholar called Christopher Jeffrolt. He has written a book called Religion and Caste in Indian Politics. See, these women, they are entering into temple. So religion and caste in Indian politics. So this is the book of Christopher Jeffrold. We will look at some more statements of this man. We will use this man's views also. And then there were two brothers called Rudolf and Rudolf, Leila Rudolf, Susan Hober Rudolf. So we call them as Rudolf and Rudolf. No need to remember all the names. R and R, Rudolf and Rudolf. So these persons, they have also analyzed the caste or political developments in India way back from 19 even till 1980s, 1990s. So they gave one concept called the modernity of tradition. We will look at what is this thing called modernity of tradition. This is the book of Rudolf and Rudolf. We are going to utilize their insights also in this discussion. So these three are the persons, or these three are the scholars whom you have to remember, along with some other scholars that we are going to refer. But these three scholars are very, very important per se from the perspective of writing the answers. So let us move into the topic. See, in my last class, what I said, I started caste in Indian politics. I said, what is caste? It is the Indian term jati that was seen as caste by the Britishers. It was almost equated to race. So it has a social construct. I said about Dumont's principle and how caste was formed and how Indian caste is different from the Western concept of class. Next, Dumont also said caste system is a very low system compared to the class system. In order to counter Louis Dumont's concept, M.N. Srinivasan has given his argument saying that caste is not as rigid as Mr. Dumont has said, or caste system has also certain uh, class system has also is also static. Class system is also class system is also not based on merit, but it is also based only on birth, like caste. So, caste and class have conflict with Louis Dumont's concept as well as the concept of M.N. Srinivasan. We have to write their arguments here. Next, I have started about history of caste politics in India. I have said ancient history, after that medieval history, and then during the colonial times, post-colonial times, we discussed, and then how mandalization of caste has taken. The role of caste politics in India is known as the mandalization of politics, the mandalization politics in India, right? That we discussed. And up to these three, I discussed in my previous class, and today we are going to have discussion on one of the most important aspect, that is role of caste in Indian politics. This is the point of discussion. So why there is a role of caste in Indian politics? you have to understand why there is a role of caste in Indian politics. Rajni Kothari says, yes, since India is a traditional society, since our societies are traditional, caste and religion are based, and caste and religion based mobilization is very, very natural. Right from ancient history, I said, right, our societies are very traditional, hence, caste and religion are intertwined. As a result, whenever we are mobilizing for politics, obviously, caste and religion plays a crucial role. This was why caste and religion was very dominant in Indian politics because of the society is traditional. If some society like modern societies like United States of America, then there you don't find caste and religion importance in the mobilization. But in traditional societies, very natural, and it is not just in India, but in other traditional societies are also it is very traditional or it is very natural phenomena. I mean, M.N. Srinivasan said caste is in the minds of the people. As a result, people in this at the subconscious level. At the subconscious level of the people, caste is deeply embedded. As a result, it reflects during the political period. Next, there is one more scholar called Andre Beetle. He has said that Indian Constitution itself has given reservations based on the caste lines. So, Indian Constitution on one side it abolished the untouchability without abolishing the caste. What do this mean? It has not abolished caste, but it just abolished untouchability. So he questions the wisdom of Jawaharlal Nehru, who said that I want to see a casteless India. But he questions Pandit Nehru, saying that how can you achieve a casteless India, a caste-free India, and communism-free India when Constitution itself mentions caste as the basis of popular public policy? So Constitution of India clearly said. In my last class, I said what are the constitutional provisions on which caste-based reservations are given. So, Andre Beetle questions the wisdom of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru and says that how can you achieve a caste-free India, communal-free India, when your constitution itself is providing reservations or public policy on the basis of caste? And then there is one more scholar called Kanchan Chandra. According to her, when political patronage is based on caste, how can we think of caste politics? When politicians are getting benefited from the angle of caste, definitely they are not going to move away from caste free politics. So this is one thing that we have to understand. So why there is role of caste? Role of caste is inevitable. One is the social traditional nature of our society. The other one is it was deeply embedded in the minds of the people, as per M.N. Srinivasan and as per Andre Betel. He argues that Constitution itself provides caste-based policies. As a result, you cannot overcome caste while we are describing about politics. And then there is Kanchan Chandra, who says that politics, as long as political patronage is based on caste, people won't move away from caste. As a result, there is a role of caste in Indian politics. So you can write the four reasons for the role of caste in Indian politics. What societies is very traditional. Second thing is society is it is deeply embedded in the subconscious minds. And the third one is constitution itself gives it. And fourth one is there is a political patronage based on caste. As a result, it continues to exist, its influence in politics. So, this is why the role of caste is present in India. You have to understand this. Then we will look what is the role of caste in Indian politics. Why it is present, I clearly discussed, and what is the role of caste in Indian politics. See, whenever this point is discussed, there is lack of consensus among scholars whether caste has strengthened Indian politics or whether caste has not weakened the Indian politics. Again, just like our identity politics, which has positive connotations as well as negative connotations, scholars have different opinions on caste based politics. Some say that caste has consolidated the Indian politics, some others say that caste has weakened the Indian political system. We will look at the scholars who have supported and the scholars who have criticized the argument of role in caste politics. So that is what we are going to see today. So there is lack of consensus among the scholars themselves whether caste has strengthened Indian politics or whether caste has really hurt the country at a greater level. Some believe that caste has strengthened the Indian democracy. So who are the scholars who believe that caste has strengthened the Indian democracy? Rajni Kothari is one person. The book that I have written, right? Christopher Jeffrolt, Caste, Religion and Politics in India. Yogendra Yadav is one person, and then Satish Deshpande. These four scholars, you have to remember the names: Rajni Kothari, Christopher Jeffrolt, Yogendra Yadav, as well as Satish Deshpande. They have argued that caste has strengthened Indian democracy. On the other hand, there are some scholars who sees that caste-based politics in the long term is going to be a threat, like Arun Shauri in the previous class I mentioned, like D. Burma, I said you can use their quotations also or their substantiations also, and Andre Beetle, the one who's questioned the wisdom of Nehru's inclusion of caste in affirmative policies, Ashutosh Varshini, they also questioned about the politics based on caste, and C.P. Bhamri. So they said that caste is are depending on caste weakens Indian democracy. Some said that it is going to strengthen or it has strengthened Indian democracy, whereas some said that it is weakening the Indian democracy. We will look at their arguments in detail. Now, what are the views of Rajni Kothari? Rajni Kothari gives the credit of success of Indian democracy to the caste. He studies the role of caste in Indian politics, and he says that Indian politics has become very, very democratized, or the democratic nature of Indian polity has its roots in the caste system or the occurrence of caste. Why he says that caste impact on democracy, how caste has impacted democracy? He says that caste has provided the basis for the mobilization of and integration of people with democracy. So, mobilization and integration was the first impact of caste on Indian politics. So, mobilization and integration of people is the first impact. So, it has mobilized the people, it has integrated the people, so it has deepened the democratic processes. Next, it is the absence of the same phenomena in the countries of third world which is responsible for the failure of democracy in these countries. Say, for example, if you look at Myanmar, if you look at Maldives, if you look at any other country, the failure of democracy is because they do not have a caste system. As India has caste system, it has ensured that democracy has prevailed in the country. According to him, not only caste has impacted politics, but politics also impacted caste. So there is a bidirectional phenomena that caste impacted politics and politics impacted caste. Now, this phenomena, the impact of politics on the caste system, is termed as politicization of caste. That is, politicization of caste. How caste got impacted by politics. So there is bidirectional phenomena that caste is impacting politics, politics is impacting caste. The phenomena of politics impacting the caste is called politicization of caste. The phenomena of caste impacting the politics is called casticization of politics. So you have to remember two things: casticization of politics, casticization of politics, and politicization of caste. Right? There are two things. Politicization of caste is impact of politics on the caste. Casticization of politics is impact of caste on politics. So these two are the terms which were used by Rajni Kothari, and these are the key terms that you have to use. What do I mean by politicization of caste? Politicization of caste means caste has made the impact of politics on caste is called politicization of caste. Impact of politics on caste is called politicization. What is that impact which politics has made on caste? Unlike the erstwhile rigid caste system, caste was transformed by the politics in these ways. That is, it has got secularized the caste system, it has integrated the lower caste with the higher caste, and then it has created an awareness among the lower class people or lower caste people. As a result, democracy has strengthened. So there was three issues, that is, secularization has happened, integration has happened, and consciousness among the lower caste were developed. As a result, caste was liberated from the strict concept of rigidity, right? So as per this person that is called Rajni Kothari, he says that caste has liberating effect. The politics have liberating effect on the caste. One is secularization. Secularization means it shows how politics has changed the nature of caste. Earlier, the caste used to be very, very rigid or it used to be hierarchical, right? But today, because of politics' influence on the caste system was very, very secular, which means earlier caste was important for ritual purposes, like Brahmins were very necessary for conducting rituals, Kshatriyas were necessary for conducting some rituals, Sudras were necessary for conducting such rituals. But now caste has secular benefits, not the earlier ritual purpose benefits. What are those secular benefits? Today, caste or people are recognizing themselves on caste lines for getting employment or education. These are the secular benefits rather than having that ritual purpose earlier in India. Today, people are aligning themselves with caste only for secular benefits such as to gain employment, to gain educational opportunities. So, this is one change that politics has created in caste system. The second change is integration. Normally, we understand caste is associated with disintegrationist tendencies. But in reality, democracy has compelled different castes to integrate and form alliances, right? We see both fusion and fission, which means lower castes at times they get associated with themselves into alliance and then they challenge the political sphere or they try to enter into the political domains. So this is one thing which politics has impacted caste. Earlier, it was just caste is seen as a disintegrative force, that is Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Sudra, Vaishyas. They were confined to their sources, saying that okay, caste is a disintegrationist tendency. But after politics has started impacting caste, it impacted in a positive way that caste-based mobilizations were possible, caste-based equations were possible. Today we look all the dominant caste getting aligned with the lower caste also. This is because of the integrationist tendency that politics has played on the caste. So, lower caste democracy has compelled different castes to integrate from alliances, and then these alliances may be in the form of fusions, in the form of fissions. Say, for example, higher caste, dominant caste may be fissioned, and they may be forming separate other castes, separate other groups based on different caste. So, some prominent caste-based coalition politics in India is very, very vivid with examples such as caste-based coalitions. For example, the first example is Ajgar, which was later named as Majgar. That is, Majgar is an Indian political party which has the presence of Muslims, Ahirs, Jats, Gujjars, and Rajputs. So this is in western Uttar Pradesh and Haryana. So the lower castes organized themselves, that is Ajgar to Majjar, right? Majgar, Ajgar to Majgar. That is Ajgar. Earlier Muslims were not part of this coalition. Today Muslims are also a part of this coalition, which means are the lower class or the lower caste people of Western Uttar Pradesh and Haryana associated themselves, formed alliance into themselves, and they started challenging the political domain. This shows that politics has an integrationist tendency. And there is one more example like Kham caste, that is Kshatriyas, Harijans, Adivasis, and Muslims. Comes coalition which was formed by Congress in Gujarat. Congress formed this coalition, KHAM, Kham coalition in Gujarat. Right? This is one more example. The third example is Muslim Yadava coalition in by Samajwadi Party and RJD in Uttar Pradesh and in Bihar. In Uttar Pradesh, Muslims and Yadava coalition was seen. In Bihar, Muslims and Yadava coalition was seen. So these are certain tendencies, or these are certain integrationalist tendencies or integrationalist politics which has resulted because of the grouping of lower caste or grouping of higher caste with the lower caste. So politics has impacted caste or caste based mobilizations very, very violently. So this is one thing that we have to understand. And third one is consciousness. When caste is entered into politics, automatically it developed new consciousness, self-awareness among the people. The consciousness gets politicized and it results the lower caste to become self-aware of their importance. So unlike earlier where the lower caste were not aware of their rights, not aware of their power, after politics has entered into caste, obviously caste-based mobilization started. People at the lower rung realized the potential to transform or the potential to form power at the center of the state. As a result, the moment they became aware of their rights, they started politically organizing among themselves. So the lower caste becoming aware of their importance. So it has risen the consciousness. As a result, because of this consciousness, they got aligned themselves. An autonomous mobilization of politics has happened. That is, initially Dalits were led by Congress, but gradually they realized their importance and formed their own party that is called BSP. Earlier, Dalits used to form into a coalition with the so-called Indian National Congress, right? Congress. Earlier, Dalits used to be a part of Congress, but once they realized their potential, they came out of Congress in Uttar Pradesh and formed their own party known as Bahujana Samajwadi Party. So this is what the consciousness creation is. So as long as politicization of caste is considered, you have caste politics, that is political impact or politics has impacted caste in a very positive way. This is as per Rajni Kothari. What is that positive way? It has secularized caste. That is, today caste is no more seen on the basis of the ritual functioning. Rather, it was based on secular benefits, and then it acted as an integrated force. The lower caste started themselves integrating, and we have seen the examples, and then it is creating consciousness also. So these three are the positives that politicization of has happened. Now Rajni Kothari clearly discuss how politicization of caste has happened in India. That is how political impact in caste has happened, on caste has happened, right? The interaction between caste and politics can be analyzed at two levels as per Rajni Kothari. One is how caste affects politics and how politics affects caste. When political impact on caste is called politicization of caste, this I said already, politicization of caste. And the other aspect is how caste impacts politics is casticization of politics. Right? This is two things that you have to remember. So Rajini Kothari explains the relation between caste and politics by analyzing how political system is impacted by caste, that is how politicization of caste has taken place. Now as per Rajini Kothari, education, government patronage and slow expanding franchise, that is universal adult franchise, have penetrated the caste system which is affecting democratic politics, and it gave new leadership. So the best example is, or the best outcome is that it has brought new leadership. So the involvement of caste has resulted into two things in Indian politics. The moment caste started associating and caste-based organizations started associating for political benefits, then it resulted in two things in Indian politics. One is caste system has provided leadership to the structure. It has provided structural leadership and ideological basis for political mobilization. Say, for example, leaders like Mayawati, Kanchiram, they were outcomes of these caste-based mobilizations. So it has provided with eminent more amount of leaders in Indian politics. It has provided the structure of for the leaders to come up the ladder and then take political powers, and then it has also provided ideological basis, more ideological basis for political mobilization. They were not confined just Congress ideology or BJP ideology. Rather, they have come up with their own ideologies like Bahujan Samajwadi Party ideology, right? And then leadership was forced to make concessions to local opinions and organized caste for socio-economic reasons. So this is the second impact that caste has made on politics. That is, people at the policy making level, they started thinking about the local opinions. They used to take what are the opinions of organized caste. As a result, the caste system got socio-economic benefits, or these people got socio-economic benefits, because the moment the leaders who are in the political level sees that these caste systems are acting as vote bank politics, then definitely they do anything or they do any policy which upgrades or which uplifts the lower sections of community. So they do policies which in turn helps the lower caste people or the poor caste people. The moment is they realize that they have caste is based at caste has political impact. So there are two benefits. One benefit is for the politics, it has provided leadership. The other benefit is for the caste themselves. They have got some extra schemes, socio-economic benefits as the policies are being made on the lines of local opinion and organized caste. Then Rajini Kothari explains how politicization of caste in India has happened. It has happened not just overnight, it has happened in two stages. The first stage is intellectuals antagonism between highly entrenched class. What do this intellectual antagonism means? Because in the highly entrenched class themselves, like Brahmins, in the highly entrenched caste, in the higher levels of hierarchy of caste system, there are two or more castes. They started competing themselves. Say for example, if it is Brahmins and Reddis in Andhra Pradesh, they were in the higher rungs in the society, so they have equal intellectuality and there exists a rivalry between Brahmins and Reddis. As a result, what it started, cleavages occurred and they started mobilizing based on Brahmins and Reddis separately. So this is the first thing. So it was an intellectual antagonism. So involves intellectuals, that is two intellectuals, and there exists a clash between both. So highly entrenched class. For example, Reddis in Andhra Pradesh and Brahmins in Madras. The reason for the formation of Andhra state was this antagonism. Next, Pateldars in Gujarat. They were also very highly intellectual. There exists a caste rivalry or there exists an antagonism between one caste and another caste. And then there were one more dominant caste or prominent caste, that is called Bhumihars in Bihar. So these three, they used to have antagonisms with highly ascendant class systems like Brahmins, Kayasthas in Bihar, Jats in Rajasthan. As a result, like Reddis had Brahmins, Patidars as Jats, as antagonists, Bhumihars have Kayasthas in Bihar. Now they started debating among themselves, they started antagonism between themselves. Now they started forming their own groups. That is, Reddis formed their own group, Brahmins formed their own group, Patildars formed their own group, Bhumihars formed their own group. The moment they are dividing, they want extra power to they want some extra support to gain to political access. As a result, they started using the lower caste people or the lower rung caste people for political gains. So slowly, these people at the lower rung, they realized that okay, they are being used by these people for their political advantage. So this was the first mobilization. The first mobilization has happened because of the cleavages and the antagonism between the highly intellectual classes of the top rung. The moment these highly antagonism has cleavaged the top rung, obviously they wanted some support from the local from the bottom caste. As a result, the lower caste people were started getting organized or they started using the lower caste for their political mobilization. So this was the first thing. The second stage involves factionalism and fragmentation within the competing caste. What do I mean by this? Reddis, Brahmins, Kshatriya, Reddins, Brahmins, Kayasthas, Bhumihars, Patildars, right? These are different castes, right? There exist for the political power, there existed cleavages not only among themselves but within themselves. Reddis started forming two or more parties, Brahmins started forming two or more parties, Kayasthas started forming two or more parties, and there is internal rivalry. It involves factionalism and fragmentation within the competing class for power, by which multi caste and multi factional alignments develop. So it was no more one caste or four caste system, multi caste and multi factional alignments developed, and lower castes were mobilized to strengthen a particular section. So they started using the lower caste for their benefits. As a result, there was a movement from lower caste sections to a disintegration of the caste system itself. In the first stage, power structure of caste has helped, because what is the power structure? It was the Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra caste or structure which has played its role, because it is only the top rung who has antagonism among themselves. As a result, they started organizing themselves on different caste lines. In the second stage, it was the caste consciousness of the people which has played a crucial role. As a result, they started involving the lower rung caste people also. So, as per Rajni Kothari, politicization of caste has happened not just in thin air. It has developed through two processes. One is, the first process is the intellectual debate, which has been as a result of the power structure. The second thing is that of caste consciousness. Because of these two things, politicization of caste has happened in India. So, from this, Rajni Kothari made few conclusions. What are those conclusions? Kothari draws four conclusions. The first conclusion that he said is, new elite structure has been emerged, which means they are different in caste but common in outlook, just like Majgar, Ajgar, right? Aham. So these are new elite structures. The structure, the erstwhile structure of Brahmin, Kshatriya, Sudra, Vaishya was gone, but today new elite structures were emerging, but they are not based on caste system, but they are based on common outlook, that is common interest. New caste based organizations also emerged, right? Ajgar, Majgar, that I said, caste based organizations are also emerged, and it has given relevance to electoral system. Now electoral system has gained more prominence because of these organizations, and it started factional divisions also. So the factional divisions such as between the communities, between the caste, was started because of these mobilizations. So Rajni Kothari clearly says that caste has impact on politics, politics has impact on caste. So this is the first argument which Rajni Kothari makes. Let me remind you, Rajni Kothari has supported the role of caste in Indian politics. He said that it has, the role of caste in Indian politics has positive impact in a way that it has democratized politics. Democratization of politics is nothing but politicization of caste, right? In the politicization of caste, we have three things, that is called secularism function, integrationalist function, as well as the consciousness development function. Now he said that how this politicization of caste has happened in two stages. In the first stages, it was the power structure which has given dominance. In the second stage, it was caste consciousness which has given a crucial role. And from these observations, he made four conclusions. One is, the new elite structures has been coming to existence, and then new caste based organizations were formed, and new relevance to the electoral system was started. So this is what Rajni Kothari said. And then there was these brothers called Rudolph and Rudolph. We have to understand what their point is. Now, Rudolph and Rudolph, similar to Rajni Kothari, they argue that caste has a very positive impact on Indian politics. So, the phenomena of politicization of caste, which was given by Rajni Kothari, they have said, Rudolph and Rudolph, they analyzed this phenomena called politicization of caste through a term called modernization of tradition. What do this mean? Modernization of tradition and traditionalization of modernity. So there are two impacts. That is, I said, caste has impact on politics and politics has impact on caste. Political impact on caste is called politicization of caste, and caste impact is called casticization of politics. This is what I said. And now they came with another terminology, that is called modernization of tradition and traditionalization of modernity. So these are the two keywords that these people have said, and they said that tradition got modernized because of the impact of caste, and modernity has got traditionalized because of these things. We'll look at what do they mean. Now, for a clear understanding, let me be very clear. What do I mean by modernization of tradition? Modernization of tradition means politicization of caste of Rajni Kothari. Both have same meanings. What is this? Democratization, secularization, tradition getting transformed into modernity. That is, caste system was no more just like the original caste system. It was democratized, it was secularized, nation consciousness was developed, awareness was developed, integrationist forces were developed. So caste was modernized. So modernization of tradition means politicization of caste or democratization of caste, secularization of caste. They have all similar meaning. And whenever you are writing traditionalization of modernity, it means casticization of politics. How caste get impacted on politics, right? So these two things that you have to remember. So what do I mean by modernization of tradition? Modernization of tradition means I just said politicization of caste, democratization of caste. How modernity has impacted tradition, or how tradition got transformed itself into modernity. That is called modernization of tradition. Caste has responded to changes in political and economic environment by transforming itself from below and from within, which means caste has responded to changes in its political and economic environment. So, changes in the political and economic environment got influenced because of the change in caste system itself. So, caste has responded to the political requirements, to the economic requirements by transforming themselves or by organizing themselves into groups so that they can have more power or they have more voice whenever they are having in their say. Next, the hierarchy, privilege, and the moral parochialism no longer exhaust its secular significance. The hierarchy that used to exist in the caste systems, the privileges that few people used to have, the moral parochialism that it used to have, so it no longer exhausted the secular significance. What is that secular significance? The importance of the lower caste, the democratization of the lower caste, the employment opportunities of the lower caste. So they were still relevant even at the presence of hierarchical structures, privileges, and moral parochialism. So this is called modernization of tradition. That is, tradition is getting modernized because of the impact of politics on caste. Next, caste has helped peasants to represent and rule themselves by attaching them to the idea, process, and institutions of political democracy. Caste based mobilizations were very, very possible, right? Caste based mobilizations, as I said, the same thing. Politicians or the peasants got themselves aligned for greater power. As a result, we see that these political peasant community getting transformed. So caste based mobilizations has happened because of this. So caste based mobilizations is a result of the modernization impact on tradition. Now, these people, Rudolf and Rudolf clearly says that this caste-based political mobilization has happened in three ways. So, caste-based political mobilization, the moment people are finding that caste is playing a crucial role in the political part processes, then definitely they are going to use caste for political benefits. So, it is very ubiquitous in rural India that people align themselves based on caste for political gains, and this is called mobilization of caste. So, caste based political mobilization has happened in three ways. That is, first, it has happened in the vertical way, then it has happened in the horizontal way, then it was in a differential mode, which included vertical and horizontal. So, there are three mobilizations, caste based political mobilizations. We will see what they are. The first mobilization is vertical mobilization, which means here, the party or the mobilization was led by a person who was from the notable community. Say, for example, a Reddy person comes and he starts mobilizing all the lower class people. So, this is called vertical mobilization. So, this person, the notable led mobilization of lower caste for democratic purposes. In order to achieve the ends of the notable person, obviously, he comes and he uses the lower caste for their benefit. So this is called vertical mobilization. The notables would normally from caste of upper or dominant caste, right? They are not from the lower caste. They are just acting or they are just exploiting the lower caste. So this was the first stage of caste-based mobilizations which has happened. That is, they realized the impact of. They realized that okay, some notable is exploiting us. So that is what the first mobilization is, Hence, this would not upset the traditional caste hierarchy. Traditional caste hierarchy used to be the same thing because they are not going to disturb the lower rung. Rather, the leadership used to come from this fellow, notable used to come from the higher caste, and he is going to organize the lower caste for his political gains. So, traditional caste hierarchy existed in this vertical mobilization, and democratic politics more or less resulted in the same format of hierarchical of yesteryears, which means the democratic politics or democracy is confined only to the upper class or upper caste nobles. So this was the first stage. So vertical mobilization is the mobilization where the notables used to come from the higher classes, and they realized the potential of the lower caste, and they started to lead the lower caste for their personal gains. So this was the basis. However, it didn't change much of the social structure that used to exist in the system in the country. Rather, it was just like the continuation of yesteryear's hierarchy. The second stage is horizontal mobilization. Now, this is very important because it is this horizontal mobilization which has unleashed to understand the concept of democracy, right? It has unsettled the capacities of caste in a democracy. So it has said that caste has a very, very vital importance in realizing democracy. It was just through this horizontal mobilization, people or the scholars realized that caste is a very dominant factor in democracy. We will see how it is. Through caste associations, lower caste started organizing themselves, mobilizing themselves. Now, they thought that without relying on upper class notable, they can lead themselves. So, the lower class people started thinking, okay, we can organize among ourselves. There is no need for any notable. So, these caste people, they started organizing themselves. The moment they started organizing themselves for political gains, this is the realization of democracy. In democracy, we see that people has to participate in politics. Every man and woman has to participate in politics. Everyone has these equal rights. So the moment this consciousness was developed in the lower caste, then they started organizing themselves. The moment they started organizing themselves, this gave the liberating effect of democracy. So this was the true democracy that was seen in India, rather than the democracy confined to few notables. So accumulated power politics in democratic competition for votes. So if the lower caste has demographic weight, that is a popular vote bank, then them to make a difference in the electoral outcomes, then they mobilize horizontally. The people themselves got mobilized, these lower caste people themselves got mobilized for their, because they are going to decide the outcomes of electoral politics. As a result, this has unleashed the potential of democracy. So caste has a very greater impact on democracy, and this can be understood through horizontal mobilization. For example, there was rise of nadars in Tamil Nadu. The rise of nadars in Tamil Nadu or the jats in Rajasthan, this is because of just this horizontal mobilization as a national in the nation, right? And it has the potential to reflect not only at the regional levels but at the coalition levels, the national levels also. So if you look at the coalition governments which were formed, they were formed from these caste based associations, and then the prime examples were Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. So this is one thing that we have to understand. The third example is, the third mobilization is differential mobilization. What do I mean by differential mobilization? The third caste based democratic calculation was sponsored by the political party, not by the notables or caste associations. This here, it is the political parties themselves which realize the potential of various castes, and then they start associating with a particular caste. So political parties are coming, and they realize that okay, these politics or these caste has prominent votes, so they start aligning or policy as based on these caste consensus. So by using this electoral arithmetic, which means if I support which caste, how many votes I am going to get. So by doing this arithmetic, the political parties use the emerging class divisions in caste or putting together the several castes. They use emerging classes like Ajgar or Majgar, right? They use these things and they make political calculations or electoral calculations, and they either create fission, they use the existing fission, or they use the fusion technologies to ensure that they are going to have the vital benefits. So this is one differential mobilization, where the mobilization will be not from persons but from the political party itself. Say for example, Indian National Congress used to use this technique called differential mobilization. It used to take the help of certain different divisions within the caste system, and they used to have electoral gains. They also, as we have seen in Gujarat, Indian National Congress, what they did, Congress Party, what they did, they have used or they have fusioned Aham, right? So these lower caste people, they were organized by Indian National Congress Party as a result for their political gains. So differential mobilization is one more mobilization that we see whenever we are discussing the caste-based mobilizations. So Rudolph and Rudolph, they gave clearly three mobilizations. One is the vertical mobilization, where a notable from the higher caste comes to the lower caste for his personal benefits. Here there is no democratization happening, but the real democratization has happened in the horizontal mobilization, where people of the lower rung realized their potential to form the power politics. As a result, they started organizing themselves, and this has truly unleashed the democratic power of the country. And then there is third differential mobilization, that is called differential mobilization, where political party is coming and acting as a mobilizer factor. The best example again for this differential mobilization is the Kallan Marwar Aga Mudiyar. They have coalesced into Mukulattar. So there was one group which is called Mukulattar, and they started playing a crucial role in Indian politics. The formation of other backward class categories in the north, bringing together several lower caste, that is OBCs, rise in the north is a result of this differential mobilization, where a national party has come and mobilized the different castes in the form of OBCs, which did not cooperate earlier. They started cooperating now with the uh, differential mobilization. So this is are the rise of OBC politics that you see in the differential mobilization. So this is what the impact is. Now, what is the impact of this caste-based mobilization? Caste-based mobilization is the concept given by Rudolph and Rudolph. Let us understand how far caste-based mobilizations has helped the Indian democracy. As I said, Rudolph and Rudolph, through his horizontal mobilization, they clearly explain that democratization has happened. The same argument was proposed by Christopher Jeffrolt. Christophe Jeffrolt, he said that caste-based mobilizations are known as silent revolution in India. This is a very, very silent revolution which has happened. Today, lower caste has become so dominant that they were in a position to form the government, and this is the true democratization. So this man again says that the same thing. Caste has liberating effect on the lower caste. It has democratized the Indian politics. So Christopher Jeffrolt continued the argument of Rajni Kothari, of Rudolph and Rudolph, and that because of this silent revolution, genuine democratization has happened in the country. So because of this genuine democratization, it shows that caste-based mobilization may ensure that democracy in India is not just a topsoil, but it was penetrated deep down into the structure of society. As a result, democracy was truly genuine. So this was a concept which was given by Christopher Jeffrolt. He said that yes, caste-based mobilizations has a very greater role or a very positive role in Indian politics. And then there is one more person called Lalita Chandrasekhar. She has given an argument that she has written an article like emancipation of power emancipating power of caste politics. So she has analyzed what is that power which caste politics play, and she said that okay, it has emancipatory power. So in this article, she says that caste-based mobilizations has acted as bridge to bridge the gaps between the different sections of society. So if there is different sections in the society, then what is that which has acted as a bridge to bridge all these people? This is the caste based mobilizations. So caste based mobilizations has acted as a bridge to fill the gaps that used to exist in the different sections of the society. This was the argument which Lalita Chandrasekhar has given. Next, she also said it has dislodged certain caste which has dominance, right? Because of these mobilizations at the lower rung, some caste which has some dominance, they were displaced. For example, the example of RJD, which has made Yadavas a formidable political entry, right? The example of RJD, which have made Yadavas, that is OBCs or intermediate caste. RJD was a dominant caste, but this has given Yadavas a crucial role for playing a formidable political entry, right? She also gives examples of JDU Nitish Kumar, who united caste below Yadavas and gave them political voice. So if you look at Bihar politics has moved from the traditional dominant caste to the lower caste people. Today, for the past 15 years, the rule in Bihar was made by the so-called the lower caste people because of these caste-based mobilizations. So this was a perfect example which says that caste has a very, very positive impact on Indian democracy. It in fact has genuinely contributed to Indian democracy as per these four arguments. So I have said four scholars. One is Rajni Kothari, who said that post caste has democratized Indian politics. The second one is Rudolf and Rudolph, who continued the argument of Rajni Kothari and said that yes, as Rajni Kothari said that politicization of caste, he came with a concept called modernization of traditionality and traditionalization of modernity. And then he has explained caste-based mobilizations, which was again supported by Christopher Jeffrold, who said that yes, it was true democratization has happened after this caste-based mobilizations has happened. And then the same argument that is called the emancipating power of caste politics was shown by Lalita Chandrasekhar in her article. So these are the four scholars who have really said that caste has a very, very positive impact in Indian politics. Then there is one more person called Professor Yogendra Yadav. He also says that yes, the interaction between the caste and politics led to democratic upsurge. So democracy truly became practical, truly became practicable at the lower level or at the ground reality. So he termed this democratic upsurge has happened in India. Which what do you mean by democratic upsurge? Democracy truly started functioning in India because of these caste-based mobilizations. He says that there are two democratic upsurges which has taken place in the country. The first democratic upsurge has happened in 1960s, where OBCs came out of Congress. So the moment OBCs are coming out of the yoke of the Congress, they started organizing themselves as a formidable force, and they started challenging the Congress system itself. Hence, OBCs also came to power in some regional parties or at some regional levels. As a result, the coming out of OBCs from Congress in the 1960s is seen as first democratic upsurge by Yogendra Yadav. He continues the same thing in the second democratic upsurge, that is during 1990s. Dalits came out of Congress, and this can be seen as the second democratic upsurge. So Congress system was reduced after the Dalits coming out of its yoke and OBCs coming out of its core. So the OBCs started organizing themselves as a formidable opposition force to Congress. So Dalits came out. This is called first democratic upsurge. This is Dalits second democratic upsurge. OBCs came out. This is called first democratic upsurge, and they started organizing themselves as a formidable force to challenge the Congress system itself. So this system is called truly democratization because lower sections started mobilizing themselves and they are not dependent on one caste or one party like Congress. So Yogendra Yadav clearly says that this democratic upsurge has happened in two stages in 1960s. OBCs coming out of Congress system is first democratic upsurge, and then Dalits coming out of Congress system is second democratic upsurge. And it has really hurt the Congress, which used to play politics based on caste for many years, and which used to have political benefits based on these caste. As people started realizing that okay, they have their own political rights, they came out of Congress and started developing themselves into separate parties. As a result, Congress system was truly reduced to the present situation. So these are the four arguments where Yogendra Yadav, four arguments where people supported role of caste in Indian politics. I said the four persons: Rajni Kothari, the second person is Rudolf von Rudolph, the third person is Christopher Jeffrold, the fourth person is Lalita Chandrasekhar, the fifth person is Yogendra Yadav. So these five scholars, they have supported the role of caste in Indian politics in a positive way. They said caste has politicized, caste has democratized democratized Indian politics, and it has liberating effect on caste themselves. However, there is second view, that is caste having a weakening force on Indian politics. Few scholars say that it has weakened the Indian political structures or weakened the Indian democratic structure. C.P. Bhamri is one scholar who said, according to him, caste politics is not good in the long term. In the long term, society is going to get cleavaged because of this caste politics. He says that caste based politics leads to communalization. When one party uses caste, the other party uses religion. The moment you are using caste, the moment you are using religion, then it is going to create communalization. As a result of this communalization, society is going to get hurt. Right? The use of caste and religion should be avoided as per C.P. Bhamra for the political gains. So this was the first argument which C.P. Bhamra gives, which says that communalization is a result of use of caste-based politics. The second argument was given by Ashutosh Varshni. Ashutosh Varshni, he has written a book called Battle Hawk One, Indian Improbable Democracy. In this book, Battle Hawk One, Indian Improbable Democracy, he says that caste-based mobilizations has not resulted into any concrete transformation. So though people are mobilizing based on the caste, but it has not made any concrete transformation in the lower caste itself. The distribution of power in the society was always confined to only few people. So there was no concrete transformation of the distribution of power in the society, even though caste-based mobilizations were happened. So as far as elections are concerned, Indian democracy is great success. Ashutosh Varshni says, as far as electoral politics is concerned, we can say that India is a great success. But has this electoral success turned out to be truly democratic in the real sense? She says, or he says, very no. The reason is democracy is not just about elections. Democracy is about the development of each and every section. It is about giving voice to every individual at the lower rung. But Indian democracy has not done well between the elections. Democracy has functioned only during the times of elections. So if you go by election procedures or election outcomes, then we can say that India is truly democratic. But between the election phase, it has not performed very well as it has to perform, like the developmental functions, the inclusive functions, the voice agency functions, they were very, very neglected. So this was the argument of Ashutosh Varshni. So I have said this is the impact of caste in Indian politics. Let us recap what we discussed in this class. I said why caste is there in Indian politics. Yes, because of the traditional societies. Four arguments that I give. Because of that, society is traditional. The second argument is that there exists that subconsciously people are well aware of their caste, and then few scholars say that caste based mobilizations has happened because constitution itself provides certain reservations, and then they said that when caste politics is getting benefited from caste, then you cannot see separation of caste from Indian politics. So caste is there in Indian politics. And then I said, what is the role of caste in Indian politics? I said positive role and the negative role, right? As far as positive role is considered, politicization of caste has happened. This was given by Rajni Kothari. Modernization of tradition, traditionalization of modernity was given by Rudolf von Rudolph, and caste-based mobilizations is also a concept of Rudolf von Rudolph. And mobilization of caste, in three ways it was done. So Christopher Jeffrold has said that yes, it was true mobilization, and Lalita Chandrasekhar has said that it has acted as a bridge and acted as an emancipating power of the lower caste. And then Yogendra Yadav said that caste has played a very crucial role, because the first democratic upsurge, the second democratic upsurge, which was the coming out of OBCs or the coming out of Dalits out of Congress party, as a result, they started organizing themselves. As a result, party system, or it has become truly democratic. Indian party system has become truly democratic. However, on the negative side, there are two arguments of CP Bhamri, and in the long run, it is going to be communal clashes, and Ashutosh Varshni, who argued that caste-based mobilizations were helpful only for the electoral benefits, but in true sense, it has not transformed the society as it has to transform. So this is what the role of caste is in Indian politics. In my next class, we will continue how OBC politics were emerged, how Dalit politics were emerged, and what was the real impact on Congress. And also, I will look what is the actual impact, or how electoral behavior of candidates is there when they are going to have caste-based associations. So this is what the lecture for this is. This is the second lecture in the role of caste in Indian politics. I will be continuing with the third lecture and the final lecture of role in Indian politics in the coming slides. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. You can for notes, we are updating the notes in the Telegram group. Here, this group will be linked. Given the link will be given in the description. You can just subscribe to that, and you can get the benefits of these free tutorials. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Have a nice day.